Okay, welcome students. It's great to have all of you here. Thanks for moving up a little closer. We are so excited tonight for this presentation. I've known Salsa Queen for quite some time, and she's built an absolutely amazing brand. You're going to love her story. We'll introduce her in just a minute. Her husband and partner in business, Jim Birch, is here as well, and some of her children are here in the audience. So welcome. Welcome to the students, and welcome to all of our guests tonight. We're excited that you came out in this foul weather. First thing we want to do is talk about last week's lecture. How many of you like Jess Larson? What did you think of Jess Larson? Pretty interesting, right? One of the more interesting speakers. He told me that he had worked all night on a presentation that he had 100 slides. And then he said, I'm not going to do this. And he kind of threw them all out and said, I'm going to take some notes on my phone. I want to sit on the stage and talk like I'm in the living room with your students. And I think it was pretty awesome, don't you think? Unusual. So I'd like two students to come up, a male and a female student, and tell us one thing you learned from Jess Larson that had an impact on you that you're going to remember and that it's going to help you in your life and your career. And if you're willing to do that, we're going to give you this book, One People, One Planet. Okay? So yeah, why don't you go ahead and come on up, and then let's have a male student. Okay, young man, come on up. So give us your name, tell us what you learned, what you liked about it.
My name's Mikkel. My name is Mikkel. I was just struck by how focused he was on relationships and people around him, and just without even necessarily expecting something out of it, focusing on developing relationships.
Yeah, fabulous. He built an amazing network. He has about 800 people he's interviewed that are celebrities, special operations, soldiers, billionaires, entrepreneurs. And so I thought that was one of the most important things that he taught us. Okay?
Going along with what Mikkel was saying, like building relationships, and he didn't have a formula for it, but essentially a formula with like how frequent you interact with them, the depth of the interaction, the frequency. I just remember everything written down on the notes, but not on the top of my head, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, there is quite a bit of research that shows you can be really good at what you do, and you have to be good at your skill set to succeed in a career, but that's not enough. It's building a network of people around you that know you and like you, that you like, and that you're serving and being with. And I thought that message was really clear last time. Okay, we're going to have Brandon, one of our great interns, introduce Jim and the Salsa Queen, and then we'll just get right into our lecture tonight.
I'm really excited to introduce two of my friends, Salsa Queen and Jim. I've had the pleasure to get to know them, and I'm excited for tonight. So a little bit about them. Salsa Queen, yes, that is her real name, so don't call her anything else. Started selling salsa in 2014 as a single mother in order to provide for her 7 children, some of which are here today, which is really great. She started generating orders through Facebook and also selling her products at farmers markets. Since then, her company has quickly grown into the largest regional producer of fresh gourmet salsas, now sold in more than 1,000 stores across 25 states. Salsa Queen immigrated to the U.S. from Mexico with her family when she was a teenager and spoke no English. In 2018, she became a U.S. citizen, which is when she legally changed her name to Salsa Queen. She is living proof that the American dream is still alive. One of her proudest accomplishments is helping her 20-plus employees provide for their families, like she has done for herself. And Jim, her partner, grew up in the Valley. He was part of the Partners program at Utah State. He graduated from the University of Utah and has worked in tech until now venturing into salsa. So if we can all give a round of applause for Salsa Queen and Jim.
Just make sure you're talking close here.
Hello.
There you go.
Yeah. Hi guys, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to be here again. The last time we were here, it was probably like 2 years ago, and here we are a year ago? Really? 3 years ago?
It's been a while.
Wow, okay. Well, we're here again. It seems like it was just last month. So thank you, everybody, for taking your time and being here with us. I know the weather is crazy out there, so thank you for being here. We drove from Salt Lake City, and it was quite a pleasant drive.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Great. This wasn't supposed to happen yet. There we go. I think I hit it twice, but you'll see some fun video here in a second.
So we're just, we love USU. We love you guys. We love Mike and all his team. And last year we got the opportunity to go to the Dominican Republic and experience the culture and experience a lot of people that they want to start their own business, and we were able to help them and mentor them, and it was a very humbling experience. We got to know some of the students from here, which we became very good friends with them. We had them over for dinner a couple of weeks ago at our house, and Tate is one of them, and now he's working with us. So that's pretty cool. Brandon, where is Brandon? So it's been very cool. So anyway.
Yeah, just curious, how many people are in the SEED program or interning? So we've got a couple of people here. Okay. Yeah, it's a great program. I think Michael's done a great job putting that together. And before we get going, how many people have heard of Salsa Queen before tonight's presentation? Or tried the salsas? Okay, so a good number. All right, well, let's see if we can do the fun video now.
That's Mike. Mike in the DR. Do you guys know he knows how to dance? Let's say it. Look at Mike. Yeah, that's my voice, right? Who knows how to salsa dance? Bachata? Yeah!
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And there we go. Go ahead. It's your story.
Okay. So my name as a born child was Marba. Marba Eret. Marba means Abraham backwards, and Eret is Tere backwards, which was the name of my mom and my dad. Well, my dad, I'll have to say, last year was quite a year. I found out after 50 years that my dad is not my dad, and I found I have a sister on Ancestry. So a lot of things happened last year, and that was one of them, and probably the biggest one. But, he's still my dad. He's right there. He'll always be my dad, and I love him. So I come from Mexico, Monterrey. I was pretty much a single child until I was 10 years old. I immigrated to the United States when I was 17 years old. We didn't speak the language. We were illegal. We came to this country probably with a little suitcase and a couple of pictures for a better life. My parents are LDS, so they wanted to be closer to the church, and with that came a lot of opportunities for us. I remember my parents working a lot while I stay home and watch my siblings, take them to school, feed them, do all that fun stuff. My dad was going to school and my mom was cleaning houses. So our life definitely changed after we came to the United States. A lot of people have that belief that you come to the United States from other countries and automatically you're rich. That is not true. You have to work really, really hard to become successful in this country, but it's a country of dreams. Okay, so after a second divorce, I found myself in a very vulnerable place, and I had no idea what I was going to do. With no job experience or education, I was like, what am I going to do now? I thought if I were to Walmart or McDonald's, I wasn't going to make enough money to support my 7 children. So around that time, I believe God blessed me with this man right here. And he came into my life and we started dating. And I knew from the beginning that he was somebody different from any other person that I have dated before. And one of the questions that he asked me was, what would you like to do? Nobody had ever asked me that in my life. I had no idea that I was capable to do anything. You know, I was telling the students when we were having dinner that I thought my talent was having kids. Since I had 8 kids, I was like, okay, I guess this is my talent. And I guess I was content with that, but that wasn't going to feed my kids. So I just want to read to you guys a little story that I found here. And I feel like a lot of us kind of have these beliefs. But it's about an elephant. And I don't know if you guys have heard this story. A gentleman was walking through an elephant camp, and he spotted the elephants weren't being kept in cages or held by the use of chains. All that was holding them back from escaping the camp was a small piece of rope tied to one of their legs. As the man gazed upon the elephant, he was completely confused as to why the elephants didn't just use their strength to break the rope and escape the camp. They could easily have done so, but instead, they didn't even try it at all. Curious and wanting to know the answer, he asked the trainer nearby why the elephants were just standing there and never tried to escape. The trainer replied, when they were very young, much smaller, we used the same size rope to tie them at their age. It's enough to hold, no, at their age, so it was enough to hold them. As they grow up, they are conditioned to believe they cannot break away. They believe the rope can still hold them, so they never try to escape free. And I feel like for me, that was my belief. I grew up in a household where I was told that I wasn't good enough, that I was ugly, that I was stupid. And I believe that. I truly believe that. And even still, you know, I question myself a lot. So, but having a person like Jim breaking those chains and actually pulling me out from that little tiny rope that I believe I was in, I'm not anymore. I'm not anymore. And I'm breaking free from those beliefs that I had since I was little. I remember one time I was sampling at a store, and I was selling a lot of salsas. I was so excited. And I texted Jim and I said, thank you for giving me the wings to fly. And he said, you have had them all along. You just didn't know. So all of us have those huge wings to fly. And sometimes we just don't know. So I'm trying to break free and getting my wings even bigger, thanks to this great, awesome person here.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Salsa Queen. So that's what you decided to do. You decided to do salsas.
I wanted to do salsa. Jim was talking about other things.
So I got to tell you this funny story. I was listening to that song one day coming home, and I got home and I said, what about Salsa Queen for the name of the company? And what did you say?
I said, no, that's the stupidest, cheesiest name ever.
Keep going.
Okay, and then I went to an event and they said, okay, under what should we put you in so we can remember you? And I was like, Salsa Queen? And now it's my name, huh? Fun enough. So yes, Salsa Queen is cheesy enough and catchy enough, and I love it now. So
when we were starting, she was very, very shy. And so when she said she wanted to do salsa, I threw her under the bus immediately. I put a post out on Facebook and said, would someone like to buy salsas that you were going to make? And I think you were pretty mad at me again, right? Because you were just like, why would you do that? And, you know, she was freaking out. But what happened?
You know, but I wanted to make, I had to make this work. I had no other option. I wasn't going to go work at Walmart or McDonald's or any of that. I was going to take a chance. For the first time in my life, I decided I'm ready. I need to take a chance for my kids. So we started selling them on farmers market, and we started delivering them as salsa dealers.
Yeah. So
Well-
so we would take orders, and then the weekends we would meet up in parking lots throughout Salt Lake Valley. And, they would give us money and we'd give them salsa. And it was we literally did that for like about 2-3 months. And then you went into the farmers markets. And then that went really well. But of course, farmers markets end at the end of the year, summer. And so that's when you got into some local stores.
We got into some local stores. We had a friend that he was in a local store. So he made the introduction. And I went there with my salsas, and they tried them, and they loved them. So they welcomed us into the store. And so I was like, okay, so if our store took us in, I'm sure other ones would do too. So I started knocking on other doors in other stores, local stores, and luckily they said yes.
So we thought we'd talk a little bit about some of the steps to success along the road. And the first step for us was basically market validation. How do you know that what you're doing is what someone wants? And that's what we did. It was the Facebook selling. It was low cost. We were able to get some pretty good feedback to begin with. And then the next step was to avoid mistakes. We knew nothing about producing food at this scale. So you got a mentor, and the mentor was able to come in and give you pointers and help point us in the right directions, right? The next step was the farmers market. So that's where we were able to get a lot of customer feedback. Every week we had different recipes. I mean, she had and this would always stop people in their tracks when they would walk by, a bacon avocado salsa. And just saying it, you kind of get hungry.
Well, I wanted to create a line that it was clean. We were going into the farmers market, right? So everybody that goes to the farmers market, they always expect something healthy. So, we were doing really good. We were selling a lot of salsas, but I wanted to increase my sales. And I was like, okay, what can I do to increase my sales? And I was thinking about the salsas that I have. They're all healthy. They're all, vegan, vegetarian, all that fun stuff that people like. But I thought, you know what? Frito-Lay, that cheese dip, they sell like a bunch of it, so it was like, people really like food even if it's not as healthy as they claim they are. So I thought, okay, I'm going to come up with these 2 dips. The creamy jalapeno. Who has tried the creamy jalapeno? Yes. And the queso chipotle? Yes, so good. So I came up with those 2 recipes, and I took them to the farmers market just to see how would people respond. Our sales went like 35% up just by those 2 dips. So, we were able to play with recipes, play with the product, and see what people really like. I never imagined that I was going to be into larger scale stores, but I just wanted to increase my sales at that point.
I think the one thing we've always learned is that, you might have a perception of what the product has to be, but until you go out and get customer validation and feedback, it's just you. It's a market of one. And if you want it to be a bigger market, you need to get that validation, because I can guarantee you the product will change. So we did the product refinement. That's the rapid testing that we would do. Every week there was a different recipe. And slowly but surely by the end of the summer, we had kind of a core lineup of salsas that sold out, and people really gave us good feedback on every time. The next thing is, well, okay, now that you've gotten some level of market validation, how do you scale this up without incurring a lot of debt? And that's a challenge, because a lot of startups, that's one of the things that they'll do is they'll go into debt, and that really hinders their ability to scale and grow, and it puts them in a bind. So we would just encourage you to try and come up with creative solutions where you don't go into debt as you scale up. And then with any kind of business, you're going to pivot. So you don't know these terms, DSD versus distribution. But what we used to do is we would literally, we had a fleet of 5 delivery vans, and every morning we would send these guys out with salsas to service each of the stores. Okay, well, that meant we could basically do about a 90-minute radius around Salt Lake. I mean, we couldn't go to Vegas and deliver salsas. And we decided 3 years just before I came on board that we were going to go into distribution. And that means instead of us doing the delivery, we outsource that to a third party. They're already taking milk, they're taking eggs, and so adding salsas is just another carton on a pallet. But that's what's allowed us to go into more than 1,000 stores at this point. And the last step is, as a business or a service, whatever you decide to do, you need to always be looking at ways to innovate. And we'll talk about our freeze-dried salsas because you're going to hear a lot more about it over the next coming weeks and months. It's really starting to blow up on us. So talk about your products, hon.
So our products, I wanted a line that it was complete of salsas. You know, you have your savory, you have your spicy, you have your creamies, and you have your sweets. So we have our red chili, which is spicy like me. We have our mango pineapple that is sweet like me. We have our pico de gallo that is like a fiesta in your mouth like me. We have that roasted tomatillo, which is one of our favorites. And it is, oh my gosh, it is another, like those two are a fiesta together. So all me. And then we have our creamy jalapeno, that's Jim's favorite, and our queso chipotle. The ones that I was telling you about, the people I thought, you know, they're going to fall for it because people like yummy stuff, even if it's not that healthy. So sometimes, you know, you want to focus on something, but during that, you know, the road, you start finding out that maybe it's not just that. You know, you have to kind of be open to possibilities or new ideas that will increase your revenues.
Yeah, and so the next line, by the way, how many of you have ever heard of freeze-dried salsas? Not very many. I mean, they really don't exist. If you do a Google search, you'll see us. So we happen to be at one of those home shows, and they have the freeze-dried fruits and the candies. And
Home Expo.
Home Expo, yeah. And I just made the comment, I wonder what our salsas would be like freeze-dried, right? And so two of her sons, Tani and Jordan, you know, they kind of helped us experiment. We experimented with it for about 1.5 years trying to figure out, okay, well, does this work? Does it taste good? How much water do you have to use to, reconstitute it? Which markets? So it was a process. We had to be very open to it, but we're getting some really good traction now because this is perfect for camping. It's perfect for the outdoors. It's perfect to ship internationally. We have a store in Finland that's selling our salsas, which is just like mind-blowing to us. It's really crazy. So tell us a little bit about your progress then.
I think you know it better than I do.
Yeah, I know you're sorry. Yeah, so it started 9 years ago. It is a woman and minority-owned business. It's something that we're very proud about. About 2 years ago, we became Utah's #1 producer of fresh gourmet salsas. Like if you go to Smith's or Harmon's, you know, we're typically their #1 salsa line, which is pretty cool. This last, 2 months ago, a month ago, we were voted the best made in Utah food product.
That is like amazing,
I mean, that's with Built Bar and all these other amazing products, and we were voted the best.
Yeah, like I remember somebody sent that to us, or they tagged us on Facebook, and I was like, oh, cool, you know. And then I kept reading it more, and then I went and bought the magazine, and I kept reading it more, and it was like, voted best made in Utah food product. I was like, oh my gosh, like out of a whole Utah, we were voted the best of Utah. So that was very, very exciting for us. Like amazing, yes.
Yeah, so as I think we mentioned earlier, I think Brandon or somebody, we're in about 1,000 stores right now, 30 states. We ship as far away as Orlando and Maryland, up to Seattle, down to San Diego. And with our freeze-dried salsas, we've got about 1,000 stores that want to go live before Cinco. So it's like crazy. We're scrambling on how to figure that one out. But that's fun. That's part of business. So if you look at our growth, you know, right now we're already averaging about 40% for just the first 2 months, and that's without the freeze-dried. Freeze-dried is going to be really crazy. And you can see in that corner picture, my lovely wife standing in front of basically a pallet of salsas. So we've gone away from delivering salsas, individual containers to the stores, to now shipping full pallets. And a pallet like that will have about 1,500 containers of salsa, and they go across the country. So it's really been quite a transition for us.
Yes.
All right, so I thought I would also give you a little bit of a look. Oh, it just jumps automatically. A little bit of look at our office. Of course, I just stopped it. Of course, that's my lovely wife. Once we've actually gone through the whole filling, sealing, and metal detector on our salsas before we box it up, that's her, and this is our office. We actually had some people come in from, spray paint artists come in from Wisconsin to do a lot of the artwork there. You know, she wanted the office that we have to really reflect kind of the Mexican culture. So big colors. It's not the sterile corporate gray that you normally would see. And those are the pallets of salsa that are going out. This is a pretty fast video, but you get an idea. And this goes into our production facility where we have some people who are going through the recipes and they're just finishing cleaning up. So it's not that exciting, but that's home to us for right now. In terms of recognition, we've talked about some of these. She was recently recognized as one of the 40 over 40 in Salt Lake, Best of Utah.
Even though I'm just 29.
But I think the thing that really makes her the happiest is our involvement in the community. So the Ronald McDonald House, that has a dear place to her. We do a lot of donations. We'll take case packs of salsas down to them and the parents that are staying there. The Sharing Place, LLS. We do a lot of donations to the first responders. They were always excited to see us come. You might see us on tracks. That's a picture of tracks. And then, you know, we did some things with the University of Utah football team this last year. So that was all kind of fun.
So we can do something with you guys too.
Yeah. All right, talk about our setbacks then, huh?
Oh, our setbacks. Okay, well, thank that we had Jim, but COVID came, right? Nobody was expecting something so tragic like that. And so, you know, people were not going to the stores. People were not going out anywhere. So we had to strategize, and Jim came up with this idea.
Well, we started home deliveries at that point. Not up in the Cache Valley, it's a little too far, but down in Salt Lake we did, and we were doing, you know, at one point, especially during peak COVID, we were doing, you know, upwards of $5,000 a day in online sales for home deliveries, where we would literally take a bag. Oh, I got one over here, I can show you. We would take an insulated bag, salsas, and a bag of chips, and they were different sizes, and we would bring it to your house, so you wouldn't even have to go to the store. So we did that, and that actually worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
But COVID has definitely been interesting. She had a business partner that was oil and water for her.
Yeah, just be careful with partnering with people, right? Sometimes we don't have the same vision. So this one, I feel like out of all of my struggles, having a partner that it didn't have the same vision and the same goal as I did, or the same passion as I did, it was pretty hurtful and pretty devastating for myself and for the company in a way.
But 3 years ago, we made some changes, and that's one of the reasons I'm here now. Yes. So anyway, that worked out well. Also, product was really interesting. So we'd go to the farmers markets, and we would take fresh salsas. And one of the salsas that we had was this mango pineapple, uncooked. It was a fresh salsa. People loved it. They bought it.
Eli loved it.
We thought, well, this will be a great product to put into the stores. Well, there's a difference.
So, you know, like I can come up with 1,000 recipes for salsas, but there's so many things that I have to think about. How scalable it is, how expensive it is, how long is it gonna last in a shelf? In a shelf, it has to have good shelf life. It has to be easy to produce and not extra expensive where we have to buy new equipment. So that's a challenge. That's a real challenge. So, you know, every time I'm thinking about recipes that I have to come up with, that we actually already have pretty much all the ingredients that we already have in our facility making the other salsas, so it won't be an extra cost for us and a bigger expense.
But that one product that we thought did very well at the farmer's market, we put it in a store, and they all started to go bad because the shelf life wasn't there. And it got so bad that what did the store do?
They kicked me out. They kicked me out of the store, and they charged me $600 because that's how much product they lost. So what I had to do is keep bringing amounts of salsa to the store and keep sampling them until I paid the $600. And I'm talking 8 years ago, so $600 was a lot of money back then for me to be able to, repay.
Catch up, yeah. So it's interesting. And another thing that we've had in terms of setbacks, and as you're building your business, you'll understand, sometimes it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't, right? So when I came on board, I had no idea about food. I had no idea about food. I knew about technology, but not about food. And so we had people in the company that we thought were key employees that we didn't want to let go because I didn't know what I was doing, right? And so we kept them on even though they really were more toxic than they were helpful. And so we learned that even when they left, because eventually it doesn't work out, that it wasn't as bad as we thought. And we had kept them in place for way too long. So that was something that we learned.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes we're so scared to make the next step or to make the next move. And sometimes we have people that are not doing us a lot of favor. If anything, they're hurting the company. But we're so afraid to keep moving forward because you're so comfortable and miserable with that person that you continue going. So don't ever be afraid to make that step. It's what's best for the company, what's best for you.
I'm just going to talk a little bit about the technology side because, we're talking about salsas, and you would think that salsas are pretty easy. They're simple. But let me tell you, there's a lot of complexity to what we do. And again, I mentioned that as a local company, startup company here, we just, 2-3 weeks ago, got our SQF certification. Now, that doesn't mean a lot to you guys, but it is a very difficult food safety process and certification you have to go through. So, for example, when we buy our pepper, we actually have to get it tested to ensure that it's really pepper, that they didn't mix in some ground up papaya seeds. We have to go through this level of validation and certification on everything that we buy now to make sure that it's authentic, that there's food safety throughout the entire process. So it's something that we have. We're very proud of it. We're the first salsa company in Utah to actually have that. We did that not only because we wanted to have a very high quality product, but it also opens up other doors. I mean, this is required by Costco. It's required by
Walmart.
Yeah, any of the big ones.
Walmart, where I didn't want to work.
Yeah. But we can also do end-to-end traceability. So we buy, imagine, all these spices and produce from around the world, literally. But we may get a case of tomatoes, and now we can trace that batch of tomatoes that comes in on one day into which products it goes into and which of our customers received it. So if they come back to us in 3 weeks and say, those tomatoes we gave you, well, they're really bad, and they're going to kill someone that has E. coli, we know where they went. So we have end-to-end traceability, which is huge. We also implemented a safety seal. So, what was it, about 2 years ago, there was that whole viral thing where people would go in and lick the ice cream and lick all that stuff and put it back on the shelf. We put a safety seal on our product. It's tamper-proof. So you take the lid off, you have to rip off the safety seal. Again, I think we're the only local salsa company that has that.
Because it actually happened to us. Somebody bought a container of queso and they took it home, and it was halfway eaten before we had the seal. So when Jim joined the company, that's one of the things that he implemented right away.
Yeah, I've always wanted that. And we have all different kinds of equipment. We have a metal detector. So as the product is going through, it detects metals. And you'd be surprised at some of the stuff that can come in as part of the process. And we find things that are smaller than literally a pin's head. So we're very proud of this, of the quality and the safety that we've put into this whole process. Let me jump to the next one. Anybody here familiar with ERP? Maybe not. Okay, if you're kind of an operations guy, you know what that is. We implemented an ERP, which is a resource planning system. So again, it allows us to manage all the materials that come in, produce, into which different buckets they go, which customers get them. It allows us to manage our inventory. So again, we're dealing with a lot of different pieces now. And if we don't have the labels, which might seem minor, but it means that we can't ship product until we get the labels in or something stupid. So, we do this to manage inventories as well as manage our costs. We also use a tool called Asana, which is a project management tool. It's a collaboration, allows us to really work across, even though we're next door, I've got people around me. It just allows us to have all the information there centralized. It allows us to have better collaboration as a team. And again, we're talking about manufacturing salsa, so it's not like we're putting, SpaceX, on the moon or anything crazy, but you would be amazed at any kind of company or as you scale, you need to have these tools because they will make your life a lot easier. And we also use a CRM. So we do this to manage communications with our customers and our vendors. I'm just going to jump through some of these to make it kind of fun. So in terms of innovations, freeze-dried, for us, that's been huge, and it's going to be very exciting. And you guys, I'm going to do a spoiler alert. You're going to get to try some of it tonight.
And you get one, and you.
And she's always coming up with some new products, which is pretty exciting. And Tate just left, but we have a company that we've created called Queen Sampling, which manages our in-store sampling. So if you go to a Smith's or Harmon's and someone is there sampling our salsas, that's what Tate is going to be managing. And we're working with a couple of our vendors like Harmon's and Smart & Final on a kind of an innovative tech play, which allows consumers like you and I to hedge against rising prices for milk and eggs and other commodities. So you'll be hearing more about that. So it's a lot of fun, innovative stuff that we're working on. You get to tell them the good news, huh? About the food.
Well, you just told them.
I gave them a hint. You get to tell them the real thing.
Oh, everybody's going to get a pouch of freeze-dried salsa for you guys all to try. But a little favor, follow us on Instagram and TikTok and make sure to tag us when you use our freeze-dried salsas. Should I throw them like Oprah?
Well, just tell them how it works. Tell them how it works.
There goes one. Let's see who catches this one. There
Yeah.
you go.
So the freeze-dried is pretty innovative. Literally, you just add water to it, shake it up a little bit, and you have salsa. So it doesn't have to be refrigerated. Lasts 3 years. So I hope you guys will check it out. Certainly give us any kind of comments or reviews online. We would love that. And then
Yes, it is pretty amazing. I mean, you can use it to season your meats. You can use it backpacking, camping, skiing. I mean, everywhere you go. I take it on the plane sometimes too. So it's been a lot of fun to have these salsas, and I can wait for you guys to try them too. Did we talk about the logo?
we did not.
So our logo is a sugar skull, and it represents the Day of the Dead in Mexico. And we chose this logo because my first son passed away from leukemia when he was 19 months old. But we want to always remember him, so that's the reason of our logo. So it means a lot to us, and it's very special, and it's a family. It's family.
I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
So we'll open it up for questions.
Ask away. No questions?
Yes, over there. Back.
One of the things that Jim told me, he said, once you get people to start doing what you're doing, that's when you're going to become successful. So I was doing it all by myself with the help of my kids, and I was really burning down. So I started hiring. Okay, when I started Smith's, when I entered Smith's, that's when the buyer. So when I got into Smith's, I had no idea what I was doing. I had a fight with Jim, and I said, I'm going to show him. So I called Smith's. I had no idea what I was doing. I called Smith's, and I talked to the buyer, and I'm telling him, hey, I have a family business. We make salsas. And he was like, no, thank you. And I was like, these are fresh salsas. And he said, oh, they're fresh? And I said, yeah. He said, okay, come down on Tuesday. That was on a Friday. So I remember wearing a blue skirt, an orange shirt, an apron. I don't know what I was wearing an apron for, and high heels, and a big flower on my head. And I'm driving,
Don't forget your bag.
Huh? Yeah. Well, and then I get there, and and I'm like, oh my gosh, it said Kroger's Corporation, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what did I just do? So I was like, okay, well, I'm here. So I got out of the car. I have a Costco bag. It's a big no-no, stores. It's like me going to Walmart with a Target bag. You just don't do that. So I went to Smith's Corporation with my Costco bag, my big flower, my outfit, and I'm following the buyer. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was so nervous. And so I go into the office, and I start I open the bag and I start putting all the salsas on his counter, and I'm telling him this is a family business, and I started as a single mother of 7 kids to provide for them, and as I'm talking, I'm opening the salsas, and he goes for the pico, and he tries the pico, and he says, "You're in." And I was like, wait, what's happening? And he's like, how many stores do you want? Do you want half a dozen or a dozen? I'm like, half? He said, I'm going to give you 8, and I'm going to give you the best ones. I was like, should I cry? Should I laugh? Should I leave? What should I do? And so, within 15 minutes, they're like 15 people in the office, and they're all trying the salsas, and I'm just I didn't know what to do. So he gets his admin, and he's like, take her so she can get in the system. I didn't know what a system was. So I go to the office, and as she's putting me in the system, she says, Marva, in 17 years that I have worked here, this has never happened. People die and wait years to be on your spot. So take care of your space. When she said that, I had no idea what space meant. I was like, okay, whatever space means. So she puts me in the system, and I go back into the office, and the buyer says, okay, now you have to go hire people besides your kids. And that's when I first got my first hire. and I remember it was a day like today. It was December 1st with the biggest winter storm we had in Salt Lake in that year. And there is Jim and I on a black truck full of coolers in the back of our truck, delivering to each store. We were going 5 miles an hour, huh? And so that was the beginning of the craziness. And the same day that I had that interview with Smith, and the Smith said yes, I had a meeting with Associated Foods, which is Stance, Macy's, Fresh Markets. And that was the first time I prayed that things will go wrong. And so I go into Associated Foods, and I was like, please, that they will say no, because I already had Smith. So I go into Associated Foods, and I introduced my product, and they said yes. And I was like, what am I going to do? For some reason, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea about stores. I had no idea about Kroger's, Associated Foods. I didn't know anything about anything. But something told me inside to go with Smith first. And it was the right move. Smith is bigger, so we went into Smith. We got into some stores. Between my kids and I, we were sampling, making them. I mean, I feel like I gave birth to these salsas. I will stay out for 12 hours making salsas, packaging them, where my hips were going to just collapse. So when we hire people, I always say, this is very personal to me. This is my baby. So I need you to take care of my baby as much as I do. So it's very important to bring people into the company that they're going to love, believe in you, respect you, and trust you, and you have to do the same. It's been very hard for me to, at the beginning, it was very hard for me to give somebody my recipes and be like, okay, you're capable of doing that. And it was really hard. I was very controlling. I was like, no, I can't. And I struggled a lot. But I finally had to make that step in order for me to grow. So, like I said, make sure to always bring good people into your business, whatever that's going to be.
Okay, any other questions?
It seems like through your story you've had different phases where you've reached different levels of traction where things are going well locally, now you're getting into stores, and now you have more and different products, and it kind of compounds over time. But in the beginning, when you first found your initial traction, where you realized this is going to work, this is going to be bigger than maybe I had thought before.
You know what? I remember the first day that I went to farmers markets. I had a mentor. He makes salsas too. He's the pioneer of salsas in Utah. And he told me, take 50 to your first farmers markets. Because if you don't sell them, at least you won't feel bad. Well, I took 100. Within 2 hours, we were sold out. And I remember having those $500 in my hand and looking at it and being like, I can make a living out of this. And that's when I was like, okay, this has a future. People of the story, everybody has a story, so make sure that when you start your business, you have a story and what you stand for, because that will open a lot of doors for you.
I mean, there's a saying that man plans and God laughs, right? So we had no idea at the first farmers market that would be in 1,000 stores. I mean, that was not part of our business plan, but you know,
you never thought you were gonna quit your job.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Right?
give up bank holidays and 5 weeks of vacation, but yeah, no, never thought that. But you know, you just take it and you just, you know, take advantage of the opportunities that are presented and never kind of pigeonhole yourself. You never know. It's like with this freeze dried. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with it. It's kind of a fun ride. We'll see we'll see where it goes. But you just kind of keep moving along and trying to make the best of things.
You know, you just have the opportunity in your hands and you run with it, right? So many times we have had the opportunities to get into more stores, to do this, to do that. We never say no. We always say yes. And then we're like, look at each other. We're like, how are we going to do this? We don't know, but we're going to figure it out. So,
We've got a lady over here with a question. Well, she used a tax credit or tax refund. That was the way that she did
I started with $3,000 in my pocket.
I mean, we made some investments along the way. I was working a different job, so we weren't both solely dependent upon the company for revenue at that point. So we were able to put some side monies into it, but we didn't have to go into like tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it going. I mean, we should have brought the original cutter that you have.
I have a few, yeah.
I mean, we had a $500 hand cutter that
I think this arm is stronger than this one because it was like.
Yeah, so you just try to manage it. There are different ways you can do some financing now. I think more creative, but again, just if you go down debt, it just puts you in a position that next month you need to make even more money, and the more money the following month, in order to kind of get ahead. So it's a slippery slope.
So you kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but the idea of the American dream. When I started my mission in Mexico, I always heard people say, well, in America, they make dollars and everybody's rich. And so I'm curious as to what your perspective about was coming over and realizing, you have to work here, and you said, Walmart wasn't an option. So, what was that like, having had a culture shock, integrating the life here?
Absolutely. Like it was very hard. We had a simple but comfortable life in Mexico and coming here, my mom having to clean houses. My parents actually for a while were working as mess overnight to clean to get paid with food. They will get paid with like the expired food, the expired cheese, the expired milk, a garbage of donuts and bread. And I remember we will cut the green part of the cheese and eat the rest, So it's not easy, like that's what I was saying. Like we have a perception that you just come here to America and all of a sudden you turn green, right? And it's like, it's not true. You really, really have to work a lot for it. But the beautiful thing about this country is that there's resources. There's, like you guys can come to college and they have this seed program and they have so many programs where you guys can go and educate yourselves. Unfortunately, I didn't have that opportunity, but that didn't stop me. But yes, that was a perception, right? It is, and it still is. Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh.
He has a different house and I have a different one. Just get it.
You mean how do we make the relationship work? Oh. Oh, she's the boss. So, if she and that's I joke about it, but she's got great vision, great insights. She's
I
more of a
feel like we
person.
trust each other.
Yeah.
We trust each other. I trust him. He trusts me, and he's good at some areas that I have no clue, and I'm good at some areas that, he's not. So I feel like we complement each other very well. Yeah.
There was a question right there. Well, to be honest with you, the stores didn't care. And the reason they didn't care is because we were doing that DSD, where we were doing the delivery. It meant anything that went bad on that shelf, we had to buy back. So they didn't care. And that's why, the shelf would always be stocked. And, if it went bad, they would just say, you need to give us a credit. But we knew that wasn't a long-term model. You can't scale if, your 30% of your product is going expired. So, we had to come up with natural ways to preserve the product. So we,
a lot of lime
she
juice.
loves lime juice, so we got a lot of lime juice in our salsas.
And also, that temper
The plastic cover.
That gave us a lot more shelf life too, because it doesn't have a lot of oxygen. So, it just preserves it better. But we still go with no preservatives or fillers added.
And that's actually been kind of a feature for us, because if you go and get a bottled salsa, which can sit on the shelf for 6 months or a year, the stores don't need to have this high of turn. Obviously they want it, but they don't have to have it. With our stuff, it expires in 10 weeks. So they've got to move the product, they got to sell it, they got to promote it, they've got to do whatever to help it sell. So that's actually a benefit for us. I think we're out of time.
But I'm not done. Just kidding. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.